Embiid goes for 70. Luka goes for 70. The top 10 NBA teams most exciting to watch on TV right now, and the conference championship picks in this exciting NFL playoffs. Hold on to your butt cheeks. It's the Michael Welch Podcast.
All my blessings, 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 all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beat it turn into a Bentley. See, I'm stunning, so I'm all I'm thinking.
All right, so I was going to start with the NFL, obviously, with the playoff games coming. But I had a few thoughts on the NBA, and some of the crazy stuff that's been happening. As I'm recording this, Luka Doncic just polished off a 73-point game, tied for the fourth highest in NBA history. Only Wilt Chamberlain twice and Kobe Bryant have scored more points in a game. The Mavericks won 148-143 on Friday night. The Mavs are now 25-20 overall. They've played very well with Kyrie Irving this year. The Atlanta Hawks defense clearly is a problem, and they're backsliding. They're 18-27 overall. And a lot of trade rumors are centered around DeJounte Murray, who's had problems. Maybe Trae Young, but they've kind of made him the focal point of their offense, and I don't know if that's going to happen. So they managed to come away with the win and a tie for the fourth most points in NBA history via Luka Doncic, 73 points. We now have, in the past year, 4 70-point games. There were 8 between 1960 and 1992 per ESPN. And 7 now since 1993. The players that have 70-point games: Damian Lillard, combining names now. Damian Lillard, Devin Booker, Wilt Chamberlain did it. What would that be? That would be 6 times. Kobe Bryant, Donovan Mitchell, Elgin Baylor, famously kind of forgotten sometimes in the ethos of history. David Thompson, David Robinson, and now Luka Doncic for 15 total 70-plus point games in NBA history. Michael Jordan had a 69-point career high. Stephen Curry had 62. Several other players have been in the 60s, such as Carmelo Anthony. But 15 total 70-point games now, and we have had 4 in the past year. Oh, Joel Embiid, that's who I'm leaving off my list, who was originally going to be the highlight of the segment. Joel Embiid's 70-point game on Monday night until Luka hit 73 on Friday. That's what it was. We got Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Devin Booker, Kobe Bryant, Donovan Mitchell, Elgin Baylor, David Thompson, David Robinson. Wilt has done it 6 times, and the first one to ever do it was Elgin Baylor in the 60-61 season for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, clearly, scoring has gone up significantly with half those games coming in the past 30 years. 5 of them now coming in the past season, past a year. The scoring is up, and there's some questions about whether there should be some rules looked at, not necessarily to significantly impact how the game is played, but with scoring and scorers so good now, and it really bothers me when folks that don't watch the NBA say that they don't watch it because there's too much scoring. You have some of the elite shooters in the world playing this game now. Case in point with Giannis and Luka and the top players in our game, Jokic being from foreign countries. More than ever before, our game has expanded from being segregated to integrating, as it should be, of course, to bringing in folks from around the world to the NBA. And shooting is getting better. Health and wellness and fitness is getting better. And we're now a fully cohesive game, not just in equality, but in folks around the world, not just the Western Hemisphere or the United States. So, should things like hand checking or the defensive 3-second violation be looked at and possibly gotten rid of? We'll see if things like that tend to change. We still have changes year to year within the league itself and various teams that tend to drive different changes. Right now, we have a big disparity in the NBA this season with more than a handful of teams being just god-awful. Just the dredges of the NBA right now with the Pistons and Portland and San Antonio and Charlotte starting to trickle in that direction. Well, in that direction. Some really bad teams and some really teams towards the top there, although we have a nice healthy mix of squads that could win the NBA championship this year. But the point is, maybe we'll have some changes soon with the scoring, but that should not be frowned upon, in my opinion. 3-point shooting hasn't ruined basketball. We went from a point where jump shooting was not a normal part of the NBA, and you used to only rule in the paint and bodies crashing into each other like a kind of football, in a way where the biggest guy in the post just had to put the ball in. And there's books written about the history of the jump shot and how that evolved to the 3-point shot and spacing the court. And big men aren't out of style, just some of the game has changed a little bit. And this is how things go. It's no different than the changes in football, and I'm sure basketball and hockey, although I'm not an expert in either of those games by any means. But scoring shouldn't be frowned upon, although it can be nitpicked as much as anything else, so just making notes on that. 70 points are still impressive, regardless of how they are obtained. I know I've seen comments that sometimes the free throws are ridiculous. Oh man, it took Luka 20 free throws to get to those points. Well, yeah, no shit. They didn't just magically hit 50 shots. There's not enough possessions and defenses that are going to allow him to take enough attempts to hit those shots to do that, right? Now, he was 15 for 16 today. He was 25 for 33 from the floor, which is a high volume. The next highest in shot attempts on the team were Green and Hardaway with 12 each. So he was both hitting at a high clip, and he was getting fed the ball, as he should be. He's the best player on the team, and he ended up with a positive plus-minus at plus 13 as well. 10 rebounds, 7 assists, was productive all over the floor. And of course, they won the ball game, which was an important part because you don't always win the ball game, as we'll get to in just a moment. Now, Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns both had big nights on Monday. Joel, Luka, Giannis, and Shea are currently the 4 players averaging over 30 points per game this season. Kevin Durant is averaging 29.1 right now, as he's had to carry that team through about 20 games in the season. Now that we have Bradley Beal and Devin Booker back, he's still very important as they try to figure out what the rest of the lineup is going to look like around those guys. Hopefully they make the playoffs. Would like to see them in some very meaningful games there. But Joel's averaging 36 points per game. Luka right now 33.6, and then it's 31.3 for Giannis and 31.1 for Shea. So Joel is clearly and highly ahead at number 1. Drop off to Luka, and then a little drop off to Giannis, Shea, and then Kevin as well there. Luka's 3rd in assists. He's also 2nd in 3-pointers made per game, just behind Steph Curry. Steph's at 4.6 and Luka's at 3.9. And he's not currently in the mix for MVP. Right now, it's clearly looking like Joel's award. After last year, looked like Jokic should be winning his 3rd. But after like the 3rd year in a row of Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid being a 3-legged race there, by the time the end of the season came around, it looks like they kind of handed Joel his MVP there. This season, though, they're 16-2 with him in the lineup in the past 18 games. He's had 30 or more points in 21 straight games. His best 36 minute per measured out statistically since Wilt Chamberlain in the 61-62 season, if you're to extrapolate that data. 40 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in the past month. He's part of the 50-40-90 club since December 1st. I believe Grayson Allen is the only other one kind of scraping that there after a great season so far with the Suns. His season totals right now are 36 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, a block, and a steal on the season, unless that's slightly changed since I took notes in the past 6 days here. It might have increased, but that takes into account the 70-point game. And he's not necessarily on track to qualify for the MVP with the new stipulations in place as of this year that you need to play so many games to qualify for all the awards and for the All-Star. So he'll have to play a number of games to finish this out, the season here. So buy your tickets to some of these games if you're in San Antonio, if you're in, in the Detroit area here. I was looking at tickets. I was like, man, are the Sixers coming through here? I can't remember if they played already, because in theory, he should be playing, Detroit. And playing some of these games that he would normally have the option to kind of sit out and say, oh, I feel stiff, I feel sore, because he wants to qualify for the MVP now. I remember going a couple of years back and trying to see LeBron, and he sat the game out. Well, as the NBA is trying to curve that, let's not forget that some of these stars are going to have to play games now. And I don't want to say that's the reason why Kawhi Leonard's playing so much this year. Part of it is his normal health, but he's not sitting out as often. Let's just say that. So, not actually on pace to qualify at this point. He's going to have to play a lot more games than he's missed already against the percentage of games that have been played by the 76ers so far versus what he's sat out already this season. So he's looked phenomenal. 76ers, one of the top teams to watch in the NBA. I was thinking with so many teams that are kind of inconsistent and so many teams that are not performing well at all, what are the top 10 teams to watch right now on TV? What are the top 10 teams to flick on? Not necessarily to win the trophy, but just enjoyable teams to watch on TV, to watch play a game. And I think it's a surprisingly difficult list to make. I have the 76ers number one. They could still make a trade at the deadline. Maxi's been performing at an extremely high level. We just went over Embiid stats, and you want to watch game to game to see if he puts up more than 30 points, quite frankly. If we're looking at pushing a triple-double, what's going on with Embiid in this incredible season that may be considered a top 5 center season of all time for the 76ers. Oklahoma City I put in at number 2. And this is still a young team. They could still make a trade for another big to complement Chet Holmgren, certainly, who's had a phenomenal season and looks on pace to win Rookie of the Year. Again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the 4 guys in the NBA averaging over 30 points per game as he continues to pilot this team that could potentially make it to the conference finals, the conference championship, and possibly the finals as well. I put Boston at the 3. Will this team, this iteration of the Boston Celtics, be able to break through and win them yet another championship? That's a great question. Tatum currently averaging 27 points, 8.4 rebounds, 4.4 assists, playing very well. Jaylen Brown doing Jaylen Brown things, 23 points per game. Porzingis has been phenomenal. He's played 33 games, which they played 45 at the point of recording this, so he's certainly missed some time, but he's been playing so extremely well, and he changes what they do on both sides of the ball. It's just phenomenal to watch. Derek White, of course, has been a revelation the past couple seasons since they made the trade for him. Drew Holiday coming in. This team is just awesome. Al Horford's been staggered a bit, and will be not staggered when it comes to the playoffs. Sam Hauser and Pritchard playing a part as well. This has just been a phenomenal team to watch. And number 4 is the Clippers. Speaking of surprises and phenomenal things, how about Kawhi Leonard crushing it this season? He played a good chunk of last year, but it just, if you're not watching them on a regular basis, it just seems like he almost hasn't played since 2019, right? It's just crazy to think about. But he's going to put in more games this season than he has since that year, if I'm not mistaken. He's on pace to hit that mark. Westbrook and Harden are doing a great job, and that's a great harmony they've got going over there. Paul George, who would have thought, if you dial it back even 3 years prior to some of the team jumping that they've done to such an excess the past couple of years. And I think when we reflect, even a handful of years from now, maybe 10 years from now, and we're like, yeah, there was just such a lot of player movement for a while there. Not that there won't be moving forward, but we're going to point fingers at Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Chris Paul. Those are some of the guys we're going to look at and be like, man, they played for half a dozen teams each, and they were switching teams every other year, if not every single year. And for the past few, they've been on like 3 different teams each. And now, ironically, with the exception of Paul George, who himself has been on 2 different teams, they're now all together and they're moving into their elder basketball years. They've had different flaws to their game, but now they seem to be working in perfect harmony. And it's just a really fun thing to watch with those four all together there. Dallas, Luka, night to night. Kyrie is actually playing and staying out of the headlines for extracurricular activities. So I've got Dallas at number 5 and the supporting cast around them. Number 6, I have the Pacers, because let's face it, Siakam being traded over there was phenomenal. Get him out of Toronto, which is just kind of treading water at this point. Not a playoff team, but a play-in team. And still, he was one of the most talented players left on that roster from the 2019 championship, the last guy remaining. And he has been phenomenal in the game so far. Lots of effort on both ends of the court. Very productive. Great running up and down the court. They ran, was it the Thunder off the court the other day? They just a phenomenal team there. Fits right in. And if they weren't exciting before, they had some problems defensively, maybe missing a couple pieces with Tyrese Halliburton, of course, there, and Miles Turner doing a great job, but putting another great player in there that's working so hard, and Pascal Siakam has looked phenomenal and is fun to watch for the Pacers so far in my 6th spot. Number 7, I tossed Minnesota for right now, and I wanted to touch briefly on Karl Anthony Towns. He had 62 points the other night, and was part of the graphics they were putting up along with Joel Embiid as one of the best center performances, probably, at least as far as points scored, that we've had as well in the history of centers. But unfortunately was overshadowed by Embiid that night, and that caused a lot of controversy as well. He scored 4 points in the fourth quarter. He was pulled, and they lost the game to the Hornets. And afterwards, Clifford was ripping his team for hunting for points and not performing very well. However, they lost by 3 points. He was pulled to not have any impact at all towards the end of the game, when arguably maybe he could have, had a little bit more of a hand in scoring and playing a little bit better defense, and maybe they win the game. Just saying. Hunting shots, sure. But still, I mean, I don't know that you'd be ripping your team in public in the press conference afterwards for that. Karl Anthony Towns obviously got ripped throughout his entire career in public. In private, that's been leaked to the public by coaches, by fellow players, and he continues to evolve his game. Had a lot of problems with turnovers and stuff like that the last couple playoffs, but I just don't know that you do that to your player after such a career game in public like that. So we'll see if he sticks around, quite frankly, or if they're gonna try and move him. Seems to be speculation that he may be the piece that needs to be moved and changed in for a more fitting part to make this a real championship team. But impressive. The Timberwolves, 32-13, and have won 2 games since that loss to Charlotte. Wednesday they beat the Washington Wizards, and Thursday they beat the Brooklyn Nets. Not impressive teams there, but 2 more wins under their hat since those comments made by their coaching staff, and they continue to win and rattle off W's there. So they've got a road trip to finish out the week here at San Antonio, and a big one at Oklahoma City on Monday the 29th before they're home against Dallas again. But that's a great team to watch as well. I have the Bucks then at the 8 spots, of course, just letting go of their coach, Adrian Griffin, former player himself, role player there. I believe he was on the Dallas Mavericks back in the day. I remember him more from playing 2K. If you know, you know. Anyways, 13 was his record there with the team. 30 and 13. There we go. We can math. They've since split with the Cleveland Cavaliers throughout the week here. Giannis has insisted he had no part in, the movement of the coach, but I'm not sure that I care about that. I would rather say that he was consulted about it. He's had 2 triple-doubles this week, and continues to be the moving force for that team. Hopefully Doc Rivers stepping in there will allow them to take advantage of more of the pick and roll and ball actions that we expected to see between Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. We knew that Lillard's defense would be a problem, and that would be the main reason that they would have struggles to win a championship when 20% of your team is just a ghost on defense. We knew that would be a problem. of course, have to make accommodations for that on the defensive end and run effective actions on offense to make sure you're operating at a high efficiency. You can't have problems on that end, which they still were despite the great record. And hopefully we'll see that. Doc Rivers, of course, has his own black marks. The number of series he's lost being up 3-1, then 3-2 in game 7s. You can certainly look that up. I didn't pull that up, but it's many and often. Number 9, Denver. Denver's still on the list. Why? Because Jokic still plays there. Last I checked. Jamal Murray, of course. And then Reggie Jackson's moved into the key role there as another piece of the puzzle there. Big piece off the bench. 11.2 points per game. And he was non-existent last year. But with Bruce Brown leaving and being a part of 2 different teams now since the Nuggets last year, he's moved into a key role there along with Caldwell Pope, Aaron Gordon, Porter Jr., Murray, and Jokic. So Braun is still playing, of course, off the bench, but it looks like Jackson will be a big piece moving forward, and assumedly part of the big rotation, key piece of the rotation moving into the playoffs, as no one else has really stepped up. It'd still be nice to see Julian Strawther, the big pickup out of Gonzaga, make some strides, but he's just not quite there yet. And we'll see. But yeah, Reggie Jackson, surprisingly, the man to step up there because he was there last season and was kind of a ghost. And I put Miami into my 10 spot right now. Obviously, Terry Rozier moved into that position. One of the better players off of the Charlotte Hornets the past few seasons. Someone that's probably in the grand scheme of things, if you're noting your top 100 NBA players, would make the list, but be towards the bottom. But that just goes to show you, I don't want to say the lack of talent, the lack of high-end talent that the Charlotte Hornets have had over the past few seasons. But he'll be an excellent piece to slot into the Miami Heat. He's been scoring over 22 points per game for the Charlotte Hornets this season and shooting 45% from the field and a decent clip from 3, over 35%, and just been a really good contributor and respectable on defense as well. So just a great piece to slot in there. We know the problems that they've had with between Hero and Robinson, depending who they have in there. Hero's currently the leading scorer at 21.8 per game, and we of course know what Bam and Butler can do. Jamie Jaquez Jr., there we go, got it right that time, is playing 30 minutes a game, 14 points, almost 4 rebounds, has been incredibly effective. He should be in the running for the Rookie of the Year trophy. He won't win it. Stayed a year longer than some of his other successful teammates at UCLA last season after the Sweet 16 run a couple years back. And it's been just incredible after being grabbed with the 18th pick with the Miami Heat here. And he'll be awesome to watch moving forward. And just another great piece on that team. And this time, they didn't even have to let him go undrafted. How about that? Just another great piece there for the Miami Heat. Now, other teams I didn't list in here that could, this was just kind of a willy-nilly at the moment. The Knicks have been phenomenal. Jalen Brunson is not someone you necessarily expect to just explode at this point in his career. He's only a handful of years in, but he didn't necessarily show this right off the bat or a year or two in. Obviously, he started to show this with Dallas, and he is just a phenomenal scorer. I believe he's officially in now. I've listened to so much NBA coverage and watched so much the past week now. I believe Damian Lillard officially made it in over him on the All-Star team, which is going to be one of the top snubs of the year. He's averaging 26.5 points per game at almost 36 minutes. 6.4 assists, almost a steal a game, and it's been just a supernova for the New York Knicks and what they've been able to do. I mean, Randall's been averaging 24 points per game, 7 rebounds as well for that team. Anunoby has been just a high-level defender in the games that he's played so far for the New York Knicks as well in the past couple weeks, and this is just a great team. Quickly as well, added to that squad, and Barrett just reshuffling the lineup around Randall and and Brunson, perhaps they should be in the top 10. And perhaps if you are reordering the list a week from now, they would be as well. Utah, 35-year-old head coach, doing great. Markkanen's in there. A lot of different guys that are great pieces. They'll probably eventually get auctioned off and parted off to other teams. But this is a great team in the rebuilding. Pelicans, again, Zion was supposed to be a superstar. Zion is still in the league, for those not watching. And there's a lot of good players on this team. And for some reason, this is just not a competitor. They're 26-19 right now. Zion's averaging 21.9 points per game. Ingram's averaging over 20 points per game. McCollum's right about there. He's back playing after missing several games with a health concern. Vasquez has not been super effective. They got a handful of other great players on there as well. And just not a team that's cohesive all the time. Cavs, Lakers, Kings, Warriors also on my list. And as we know, some nights those teams are just atrocious to flip on. I will note Kuminga, some great performances, all things considered, the past couple of games here for the Warriors. As I got a look at those this week, he was 11 for 11 shooting against the Hawks in a win, and finished with a high for the team, 20. I guess he wasn't high for the team, high off the bench, tied for high on the team with Curry at 25 points, 9 rebounds, plus 18 plus minus, and was really effective, looked really good. All, really good considering the team hasn't performed very well. And then just an awful loss to follow that up against Sacramento. Curry had the ball for the last possession, and really someone else should have taken it. 134-133 loss. It was the first time in 8 attempts the Kings have managed to win on the Warriors' home floor. 7 consecutive losses prior to the victory here. Curry was double teamed at the end. I think he just bounced the ball off his foot, it looked like, and out of bounds. Didn't even get a shot up to attempt to win the game. Just bad there. Kuminga, though, 12 for 19 shooting. 12 for 19 shooting for 31 points off the bench. 3 assists, 3 boards, 2 steals, plus 16 off the bench. 2 for 4 from 3. For all the really contentious comments made back and forth the past season and a half between him and Steve Kerr. He's not getting played enough. He's sitting on the bench with a towel over his head. Perhaps the Warriors aren't playing him enough. He wants to be traded. Now he's playing this past week and exploding. So we'll see. This team certainly has problems. They're 19-23 at this point, 12-12 at home. They're struggling to even make the play-in the West at this point, and he's been a super productive part of what they're doing. Second leading scorer the past few games out, and it would not be hard to start to leap into second leading scorer on the season eventually. Klay Thompson's averaging 17 points per game. Steph Curry's averaging 26.8. I believe when we were about 10 games into the season, he accounted for 50% of all the offense Stephen Curry did. And simply by volume, that wasn't going to continue. But Curry is still, just taking everything and on his back for this team. And Kuminga's third in scoring at 14.3 per game. And that's the guy who wants to be traded out and is fighting with the coach. So, got some real problems still going on there in Warrior country. Wildcard weekend wasn't exactly a nail biter for the most part, but doesn't mean we didn't have some pretty good storylines here. Obviously, the Texans beat the Browns 45-14 as Flacco came back down to earth a little bit there. We knew he was turnover prone. 2 picks in the game, 307 yards passing, and CJ Stroud, the rookie, took the team to 10-7 and 11-7 at that point. Jeez Louise, 11-7 at that point, and 7-3 at home. 3 touchdowns, 274 yards, 16 for 21 passing, a 98.4 QBR, and 157 quarterback rating, setting a bunch of records there, I do believe, for a rookie quarterback. Just doing a phenomenal job. Did some things on the ground. Singletary averaged 5 yards per carry on 13 totes of the ball there. And just a phenomenal job. He's down one receiver, Nico Collins, which would haunt them as well in the next round. But just doing a great job, tearing apart the Cleveland Browns, scoring in every quarter there. And it's kind of a tough way for Cleveland to go out. Obviously, on their fourth quarterback of the year, Flacco had to put the ball in the air 46 times. He took almost a handful of sacks, finished with a 54 QBR and 80 rating. Couldn't run the ball, which we knew was a problem, and that's pretty much how it was going to go for Cleveland if things went wrong. Just a Flacco implosion, but they've been living and dying by his arm, and that's how it was going to go. Excited to see them come back next year. Sabansky in the running for Coach of the Year, and just a great season considering that they lost Nick Chubb early and just had to make things do on the offensive side of the football. Would really like to see some success from them moving forward in the playoffs, though. Good job on the defensive side of the ball, as they did throughout the entire year. Didn't get any sacks in the game. Got some pressure, though. But ultimately, just tough. Couple of pick sixes in this game for the defense of the Houston Texans, and that just made such a tremendous difference. The Kansas City Chiefs put away the Miami Dolphins 26-7. I wasn't entirely certain that weather was going to play like a huge problem in this. I know that's always the national narrative. I know everyone says that, but it's not like these guys haven't played in cold weather before, drafted from all over the country, lived all over the country just because they're professionals in Miami now, especially with some of these guys being younger on the team, doesn't necessarily mean that they just don't know how to play in cold weather. It's cold for everybody. Certainly, it seemed to be part of the problem, but I'm not sure it wasn't that for everyone. The real difficulties were that Tua Tagovailoa going 20 for 34 passing, 20 for 39, excuse me. It was just under 50%, 199 yards, 5.1 per attempt, touchdown, a pick, took a couple sacks, but only a 15 QBR and 63.9 rating. They couldn't really run the football. Tyreek Hill did have 5 grabs for 62 yards and a touchdown, but was just not quite as explosive. He did have a 53-yard run on one of those, so just didn't do a whole lot. Defense did a good job of preventing him from making big plays. He had 8 targets. Jalen Waddle had 5 targets, only 2 receptions, 31 yards, so he did play. A-Chain was in there as well. He had 3 catches for 21 yards, 6 carries for 6 attempts for 9 yards. So 9 touches total for 30 yards. They were 1 for 12 on third down. They never made it into the red zone. Kansas City was 6 for 15 on third down, and they were 2 for 6 in the red zone, which was not a super outstanding number. Pachenko had a great game, 89 yards on 24 carries. Again, not a super strong rushing attempt number, but was solid for the team and has been a workhorse for them at running back. Rashid Rice, though, 8 catches for 130 on 12 targets, over 16 yards per catch, and a touchdown as well, really showed up there. And 23 for 41 passing, 262 yards, over 6 per throw, a touchdown, 88 QBR, 83 rating for Patrick Mahomes. Not elite, but enough to get the job done. And as much as it's been difficult to find skill position players to really help him out, Pachenko's doing a great job around the ball. Rashid Rice really stepped up here, and Travis Kelce, 7 for 71, was fine, did a good job, and they did what they needed to do to beat the Miami Dolphins. Be nice to see them continue to improve next year. I don't know what to make of Tua Tagovailoa. I'm putting together post-season, not postseason, but after-season quarterback rankings right now that I'll have together for a podcast for just after the Super Bowl. And I'm still having a hard time placing him amongst some of these other guys I got going right now. So still not sure what to think of Mr. Tua there. The most shocking result was the 48-32 dismantling of the Dallas Cowboys. Packers came into town, had a 27-7 lead at the half. Jordan Love, who's looked great over the past 7-8 games of the season, continued to roll in the postseason here, in the initial game at least. Now, Prescott had 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and going over some of his stats, he's really, a lot's putting on his plate in postseason. The lack of success in the postseason, and that's not always warranted, but he put the ball in the air 60 times to Jordan Love's 21. He was 41 for 60, 6.7 per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He was sacked 4 times. It's a 42.7 QBR, 89.8 rating overall. Not a bad job running the ball. Tony Pollard, 3.7 per attempt. Prescott himself had to carry it several times, did a good job running the ball out of the pocket as well. I should mention in the Chiefs game, it was up to Patrick Mahomes to take the ball out of the pocket quite a bit as well. So we've had a couple quarterbacks helping the run game out quite a bit here. CeeDee Lamb, 9 catches for 110. Gallup, 6 for 103. Jake Ferguson, 10 for 93 and 3 touchdowns, all 3 of them. Brandon Cooks had 6 for 47, but a lot of this didn't come until much later in the game. You look at Jordan Love, 16 for 21, 13 yards per catch, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, was not sacked, 99.3 QBR, 157.2 rating. Aaron Jones, 21 carries for 118. That's 5.6 per carry and 3 touchdowns. The big muscly guy, A.J. Dillon, with his big thighs there, did not play in this game. It was probably pretty good that Aaron Jones had to carry quite a bit of the load. Emmanuel Wilson did get 8 carries for 20 yards as well, but Aaron Jones carrying quite a bit of the load and to great success, including one drive where they started inside their own 10, I believe, and he broke a nice big run out. Dobbs, 6 catches, 151, and a touchdown. That's over 25 yards per catch. Musgrave, 3 for 52 and a touch, and just a tremendous job setting up great plays on this Dallas defense that was absolutely ripped apart. And it's just unfortunate for the Cowboys to put another good-looking roster together and just suffer so horribly in the postseason. And the coaching staff's going to come back. Head guy there, Mr. Matt McCarthy, losing to his former team there. And Cowboy fans got to be pretty disappointed looking forward to next season. Just a sad state of affairs there. I'm seeing mock drafts already for a running back in the first round. Blake Corum in some cases from Michigan, of course. And that looks like the direction they're going to be heading. Retooling some of the pieces on that offense, which is too bad. As good as that offense has been, that it's the defense that kind of let them down in the postseason. So questions will be swirling around Dak again, and I just not entirely his fault here. Lions-Rams was the other Sunday game, and this was the only close one. 24-23, Detroit pulls it out. A big Amon-Ra St. Oh boy, I can never say this right when it comes down to it. Amon-Ra St. Brown reception, converting a 3rd down, locks up the win for the Lions here at home. 7 catches for 110 overall for Brown. And just jubilation in Detroit. We, of course, got photos on the sideline. Calvin Johnson, Big Sean, Eminem. This team is not one like this in almost 25 years. Or no, it's 30 years. And just great success. 22 for 27 for 277 yards for Goff. 10.3 average. Now, Stafford on the other side was 25 for 36 for 367 yards, 10.2. 2 touchdowns. 5 sacks taken between the 2 of them. Comparable QBRs. I mean, this was the quarterback play was phenomenal between both of these guys. Matthew Stafford did ding up his thumb in this and was bleeding a bit. David Montgomery, 14 for 57 for a touchdown, and then Gibbs came in a little bit more, 8 carries for 25 for a touchdown, although it sure seemed like he was in there a little bit more, and I hope moving into the conference against San Francisco 49ers, the conference championship, that he gets more carries, because he's just more productive, more of a threat. Now, Stafford and his squad there, Puka, 9 catches for 181 and a touchdown, setting records as a rookie. 10 targets, had a big 50-yard catch as well, and not a whole lot going there. Coop, 5 catches for, Cup, 5 catches for 27 yards. Cooper Cup. And you kind of have to wonder what his career is going to look like moving forward. His injury history, you have a number of other skill position players kind of stepping up there. Now, he is only 30, so he'll be 31 next year. June 15th is his birthday, so 31 heading into next year. I assume he'll be a little refreshed next year. They'll figure out a way to kind of get him going with Puka there. They have a number of other guys in the mix. I don't know if Demarcus Robinson's going to be a key piece of the building moving forward. He's about to be 30 years old as well. Tutu Atwell has been pretty productive when gone to this season. And you have to think that they're going to still run the ball quite a bit as well, with Kyron Williams being such a smash success. He only had 61 yards in this game, but he had 4.7 yards per carry. He did rip off a big 15-yarder. But they're still going to want to throw a lot with Matthew Stafford. But he's clearly picked out Puka as his new favorite weapon there. So just interesting, coming into the season. Darnold wasn't sure if he was going to retire or not. You had McVay talking about possibly moving on. Stafford was going to have surgery. There were questions about him. And Cup was injured, of course, just before the season started. So your 4 key pieces there you weren't sure about. You come into this season, you finish with a winning record. You make the playoffs. You have a chance to advance. And all 4 of your key pieces are in, presumably in for next season. And you find some new guys in what you're building here. So this is just a phenomenal season for the Rams. It could not be much better. And I think there's some new credence to this bringing in a veteran quarterback right away to try to win a Super Bowl that we've seen recently. Stafford into the Rams, Brady into the Bucks, and Aaron Rodgers into the Jets. So Tampa Bay, obviously, we'll get to in just a second, had quite a bit of success this season, and still trying to figure out contracts and salary cap and stuff in a air quotes rebuilding years post Brady. And they look to be in good shape moving forward as well, even though you can say the division was down this year, absolutely, and maybe in rough shape still next season, but they're still in a position to compete and win and make the playoffs and possibly advance again. So something to be said for both winning a chip and being able to turn around and still be competitive a couple of years later, and having a good front office and good coaching staff in place to be able to do that. And you have to wonder what's next for the Jets. And I have some thoughts on that when I get to my quarterback rankings in a couple weeks here. So great game between the Rams and the Lions, really a coin flip. And thankfully, the Detroit Lions come out ahead. Steelers, Bills, no TJ Watt for this one. 14-0. In the first quarter, the Bills jump out, and that's the final margin. 31-17 is the final. Now, Mason Rudolph had a fine game as the number 3 quarterback in for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but a veteran there, 22 for 39, 229 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick, 1 sack, 40 QBR, and 80 rating. Not excellent there, but still did a decent job of getting guys involved. Pickens had 5 grabs for 50. Freiermuth 5 for 76. Dante Johnson 4 for 48 and a touchdown. Ground game didn't get a lot going. As a team, they went over 100 yards, certainly. But Warren is still the most effective back there. I assume he'll take over the lead role next year. He had 8 carries for 38 and 4.8 per carry in this one. Najee Harris at 3.1 yards on 12 carries for 37 yards. Josh Allen was 21 for 30 for 206 and 3 touchdowns. He also had 74 on the ground and a touchdown. James Cook had 79 yards on 4.4 per carry. 91.7 QBR for Josh Allen. 121.9 rating. Very successful there. Diggs had 7 grabs for 52 yards. 7.4 average there. 9 targets. Again, he can be very frustrating when he's not a part of the offense. and just not a lot going on in the passing game overall. 3 catches for 59 and a touchdown for Kincaid, who was a great draft pick and inclusion in that team. Knox did have 1 grab for 9 yards that went for a touchdown there in the red zone. That was very important. James Cook, part of the passing game, but not terribly effective with what he was able to do. I sometimes forget they have Andy Isabella, who was supposed to be such a speedster coming out of college there and being drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. He came out of UMass there, but just not terribly successful. The defense is only able to get 1 sack on Rudolph there, but batted a bunch of balls down, a few tackles for losses, several quarterback hits, and was just very successful in disrupting probably the worst team to make the postseason. Arguments can be made for the Bucs, but I don't think that was the case, especially once you saw the results on Monday night. 32-9 was the final. The Eagles just didn't want to be there. That's about all that can really be said, and this has been talked to ad nauseum now. Head coach being retained, coordinators being booted out. Hurts was 25 for 35 for 250, throwing it downfield, 7.1 per attempt, at least a decent clip, a touchdown, sacked 3 times. DeAndre Swift had 10 carries for 34, but not moving the ball on the ground really. Donovan Smith had 8 grabs for 148. Swift himself had 4 for 32. Just not a lot going on the offense. 2 fumbles. Just not a lot going on. Defense is okay. 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, and it was not an impressive stat line to begin with for Baker Mayfield, but he ended up finishing 22 for 36 for 337 and 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times again, and he had a big play towards the back half of the second half, I believe it was at this point. Memory's starting to go with all the games. But Mike Evans had a nice grab, as did Trey Palmer. 56-yard touchdown, his only catch of the game. Cade Otton also getting a lot of targets, 11 of them. He had 8 catches for 89 yards, and just doing a good job getting everyone in the mix. Mike Williams, Chris Godwin, Trey Palmer. So Tampa Bay winning against a team that didn't want to be there. 32-9, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for losses, 5 passes defended, credited at least. I don't know how they always keep track of that stat. And 6 quarterback hits for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, a team that's kept a few pieces, very few. We know within 3 years sometimes, in the turnover from these post-Super Bowl rosters and trying to keep with contracts and rebuilding and things like that. Retirements a lot of the time, because you have a lot of veterans on there often, that these pieces tend to go away quicker than you realize, and still retaining a few key guys there on both sides of the ball, and moving forward to a successful future as well. So just keep that in mind when the next quarterback looking for a team that's kind of proven a little bit and is a veteran, like a Kirk Cousins, could go to a contender. Just keep that in mind. That they could be a Super Bowl contender. Just saying. Seems to be something to that. Now, the divisional round, much better. Now, the first game, Ravens beating the Texans 34-10. Not the perfect example. But Lamar Jackson did a great job proving himself. I've always loved this kid. I remember watching him in college a lot, yelling at my roommate. We had to turn off whatever game he was watching, that we got to put Lamar Jackson on. I believe one of his years, or a couple of his years, Louisville was one of the leading teams in dropped passes. So sometimes when folks go back and look at his college stats and stuff like that, he gets crushed on everything, quite frankly. But he played with nobody in college, and nobody helped him out. Defense wasn't awesome. Guys were dropping passes. Offensive line wasn't awesome, and he just ripped it apart in college. It was just fantastic. Now he still doesn't have great offensive weapons. Zay Flowers is the best receiver he's ever had. Odell Beckham Jr., did you know he played? Unless you're watching every snap, you probably didn't, because you can't see this sucker on the field. He's not terribly productive. Nelson Aguilar has been more productive, Rashad Bateman, who they drafted out of Minnesota, not been terribly productive. For this game, the leading receiver was Zay Flowers, 4 for 41 yards. That was the leader in catches and yards for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Lamar Jackson was 16 for 22 overall passing for 152 yards. That's 6.9 per attempt, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times. Texans were getting pressure all over him. So besides those 3 sacks, they were credited with 9 tackles for losses, 5 quarterback hits. I'm sure the pressure rate was much higher. Don't have that in front of me at the moment. He had 11 carries for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. That set a number of records as well. And the offense behind him, who accounted for a huge chunk of the offense, was just very explosive. On the other side, CJ Stroud, 19 for 33, 175 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, didn't take any sacks, a 53 QBR, 72 rating, couldn't run the ball. Again, Nico Collins was the last receiver standing by the end. Robert Woods hasn't been productive for them much at all, just not a lot going here at all, statistic-wise. The defense, again, getting pressure on Lamar, but this was going to be remembered as the Jackson goes off game, pretty much. So, looking forward to seeing CJ Stroud improve, and I think he's already a top 12 quarterback in the league. I think that's safe to say. We pretty much knew Joe Burrow was right off the bat as well, and I think he's going to be right in that mix. If you're going through, where would you place him? How many quarterbacks are you realistically taking above CJ Stroud? And you can say, oh, he's going to backslide next year. No doubt. You can't just say he's going to, progress is linear. He's just going to explode next season and be, such a productive quarterback again. Maybe there's some issues. Maybe he is really good again. But how far does the floor have to fall out for him not to be, one of the best quarterbacks in the league again next season? 49ers beat the Packers 24-21. It's amazing that Green Bay could have won another one. Christian McCaffrey, a couple of touchdowns in this one, very productive. Brock Purdy was not good. It was a little rainy, and that made things very difficult for him. 23 for 39, 252 yards, and a touchdown. Brock Purdy ripped apart after this game. Ripped apart. 10-0 scoring run in the fourth quarter to make sure that they won this game. Again, Shanahan, I believe, was 0-30 when trailing by 5 or more points in the fourth quarter entering in. So it actually is a big deal that they managed to rally and win, especially after Purdy's poor performance. McCaffrey finished 17 carries for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that was kind of the difference. Kittle had a nice big 32-yard reception for a touchdown. He finished with 4 grabs for 81. Juwan Jennings, 5 for 61. Ayuk, 3 for 32. McCaffrey also had 7 grabs for 30. Debo had 2 for 24 and went out hurt. It's been a big problem. He hasn't been practicing, and he's officially been ruled that he's going to play for the conference championship game, although how healthy he's going to be is a question mark. Loving this one, 21 for 34, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. QBR was down there further. Rating, for a losing team on the road was not great, but obviously not that bad for a guy in his first full year starting. Aaron Jones, another 108 on 18 carries. That's 6 yards. Now, half of that did come on one big run, but that's a tribute to, them handing it to him and the respect for what he can do there. Dobbs, again, 4 for 83. Reed, 4 for 35. Bo Milton had a big touchdown in there. Musgrave, 3 for 14. And just one of the youngest teams in the league. 2 fumbles really hurt them, but one of the youngest teams in the league should be very productive again next season. And it just, depending on how you felt in this one, is Green Bay really good? Is San Francisco really vulnerable? It's going to be some of the storylines for San Francisco because they're still in it, advancing into today. Next up, we had the Lions and the Buccaneers, 31-23. Jared Goff, couple touchdown passes here. Again, just overwhelming excitement in the Detroit Lions field here. And they only got to host a second game because Dallas lost. That left the Lions as the higher seed here that was able to host a game. And ironically, if Green Bay had held on to beat the 49ers, they would have been able to host the NFC Championship game. So they were actually rooting for the Packers to beat the San Francisco 49ers, but that did not happen. Goff overall, 30 for 43 for 287. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 carries for 74 yards as he started to get closer to that splitting point with Montgomery, who had 10 carries for 33. But see, he only had 3.3 yards per carry, and Gibbs was at 8.2, ripped off a 33-yarder and had a touchdown as well. St. Brown, 8 catches for 77 and a touchdown. Laporta, 9 for 65, and he was questionable heading into this game, a little banged up. Jahmyr Gibbs caught a few balls as well. The defense had 4 sacks, 4 tackles for losses, 8 quarterback hits as again, Baker Mayfield was under pressure. Now he did throw 3 touchdowns, including one in the fourth quarter that pulled it tighter. He had a couple picks though. 26 for 41 overall, 349 yards, was able to move the ball through the air. Again, Rashad White moved the ball a bit. 9 carries for 55 yards at 6.1 per clip. Chase Edmonds was in. Kind of forget that he was part of the roster there. He had 19 yards on 4 carries, but just not terribly successful on the run in the second half as the Lions started to kind of put a little distance in there. Mike Evans started to get going as well a little bit later as the game went on. 8 catches for 147. Oh, he had a beauty sliding towards the end zone as well. 18.4 per catch there. Cade Otton involved as well. Chris Godwin still kind of taking a back seat, still involved, but kind of taking a back seat. And it's just not enough for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were able to get a little pressure on Goff as well, get him a couple times in there. But just Detroit Lions hanging on at home there, getting after Baker Mayfield, who really had a phenomenal season as really a stand-in there. Be interesting to see if they're able to make a move for a quarterback, or if they plan to stick with them, which is what I would do for now, continue to build that team, because you're still, like I said earlier, going to be in a position to possibly win that division next season. And finally, we have a rematch here. Bills, Chiefs, Mahomes, and Allen, 27-24. The Chiefs pull it out in Buffalo. More snowballs, more cold, and more Buffalo sadness. Now, Josh Allen in this one, 26 for 39, 186 yards, and a touchdown. QBR and rating weren't awful, 65.4 and 86.1. 12 carries for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns as he did it on the ground. James Cook contributed 61 yards as well. Ty Johnson got in there, 40 yards on 7 carries as well. They had 180 plus yards on the ground overall. Kincaid, 5 catches for 45. Shakir, 7 for 44. Diggs, 3 for 21. He's not happy about that. And what is Buffalo doing sometimes? This turned into the Josh Allen YOLO ball at times on offense. The big plays we expected didn't really come. The run game reverted back mostly in Allen's hands. Now they had like half a dozen starters out on defense, which did not help, obviously, but they're still in the thick of this game. They were 7 for 14 on 3rd down and 2 for 3 on 4th, which is very critical. They had more yards on offense. They had much fewer yards per play, which was the big problem. You have to feel kind of sick. No turnovers, and that Kansas City had 1. So this is an opportunity to really win a big game here at home. Kansas City was 1 for 5 on 3rd down. They just didn't face a whole lot of them. Patrick was 17 for 23 for 215, threw the ball downfield, 9.3 per catch, 2 touchdowns, and didn't take a sack. 91.2 QBR, 131.6 QBR. Pachenko had 97 yards on 6.5 per carry in this one and a touchdown. Kelsey had both the touchdowns, 5 catches for 75 overall. Rice had 4 for 47 in this one. All 4 of his grabs he held on to there. And 5 tackles for losses, a couple quarterback hurries, but Kansas City is able to pull out of this one. They're the only team to score in the 4th quarter, and just a big deal for the Buffalo Bills, who miss a key field goal and makes a difference in this game. And again, Josh Allen going home, or staying home, I should say. And again, Kansas City advancing. At some point, you have to think that flips. This is kind of like the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, where Tom Brady got the best of Peyton Manning like 90% of the time throughout their careers. So I had Houston covering the 9.5 That did not hit. Did have Ravens winning. Got that piece of it. Had the KC win and cover. Was able to get that. 49ers win and Green Bay covers the 10.5. Hit both of those. And the Lions covering the 6.5. Did not have them winning. So thankful to be wrong on the Lions twice. And that brings us up to the conference championship game here Sunday, January 24th, where we are here today, 3 p.m. CBS AFC championship game. The Chiefs at 11-6, 6-2 on the road, heading to the Ravens at 13-4, and 6-3 at home. 2 games better than the Chiefs. They are bringing back Mark Andrews, who's been banged up, although he's probably going to be on some kind of snap count, probably not going to be 100%, likely still going to be the key piece there. Marlon Humphrey's banged up, so that's going to hurt the secondary. This will be a great game. 2 great quarterbacks, 2 guys that could each have a couple of MVPs, and the line is 4.5 Baltimore, and that's changed a bit. I think it was 3.5 at one point. 44.5 point over-under. Right around 50 degrees there in M&T Bank Stadium. Now, my preseason prediction was that the 49ers would beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And we are a couple steps away from that, being in the cards. But that's not what anyone wants. Not really. Well, I guess it depends. But Ravens-Lions would really be ideal. If 49ers win the Super Bowl, I think is something that should really happen, despite all the quarterback issues and conundrums that they've had, but not against my home state Lions. Ravens, I'd love to see Lamar Jackson get a Super Bowl and to kind of throw a middle finger to everyone that did not even consult him this offseason when he was at least open to discussions, even if he never really planned on leaving the Baltimore Ravens. So I am going to take Kansas City to cover and Baltimore to win at home. I think it'll be, of course, a close game. I don't think anyone's going to run away with this. I actually think both teams potentially have problems with their offensive weapons. Mark Andrews. Right now the Ravens are looking at Isaiah Likely, and they're looking at who else are you excited for at the wide receiver core? Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, who's 4 for 40, seems like a pretty standard stat line at times right now, especially when the Chiefs try to remove him from the game. And the Chiefs on the other side, you hope Ray Rice steps up. Travis Kelce should be an impact player. Both these defenses have been pretty reliable. The Ravens, I think, better. And I think Lamar Jackson being able to both move and do things out of the pocket are just better. And I just like the consistent defense of the Ravens better. And they're at home. So we're going Ravens. And we're going Chiefs to cover in a close one. And then the Niners are 12-5. Surprisingly, the Lions are 12-5. Fox 6:30, the NFC Championship game. The line I have at 7. I believe it was 6.5 at one point. I think it's actually ballooned more San Francisco's way. I think the Lions cover this. I haven't been a believer in their secondary, certainly, the entire season. They are, let me see here. They are getting James Houston back, I believe, on that defensive line. Don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in for sure, but I think that they're going to cover. 51.5 is the over-under. I think we'll have points. The 49ers, as many great talented players they have in that offense, you can move the ball on them. The pass rush isn't as terribly threatening as about a couple handfuls of teams in the entire league. Brock Purdy, 69 degrees. He should be able to throw a few good balls. It's not going to be raining out there for him, but is susceptible to a good pass rush. And you have to think if they're not just going to hand the ball off to McCaffrey, that they could open themselves up to some mistakes there. The safest play is hand off to McCaffrey and let him figure it out. Deebo Samuels was also cleared to play. Not sure what kind of impact he's going to have either, though, because he's not going to be 100% there. So we see when some of the offensive weapons aren't necessarily ready to go, that there's real problems in the whole system there. So I'm going to go Lions because that's what we're going to do. And I can't believe folks number of folks are picking the Lions. So I don't feel like I'm going too far out on a limb here. And we're doing it. We're doing Ravens and Lions. Detroit to the Super Bowl. Not only covering, but winning outright. We're taking the over as well on this one. I think we're going to see them, Goff play another really good game. I think that offensive line that's been a little banged up, but I think should have all the starters in, presumably. Being able to keep Goff pretty clean back there. Being able to deliver to what's turned into a plethora of offensive weapons out there. Getting Gibbs involved as well. And Montgomery, I think that's just a lot going for him. Defensively, you have to worry about the pass game, but I think they're going to be okay. We're doing it. Lions win and +7, and Ravens win. Chiefs cover. Ravens, Lions, Super Bowl. That's what we're doing. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the games. I'll chat with you later. Bye-bye.
All my blessings, all my blessings. All my blessings, 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 all my blessings.
I need my blessings every penny. Daily counting every single one, I'm seeing plenty. Level up and watch that beat turn into a Bentley. See, I'm stunting something.